Before Jessica Jones was a TV show, before superhero stories were dark on purpose, before anyone used the word anti-hero like it was a personality trait, there was just a little girl who liked mysteries. Not superheroes, not cosmic battles, not world-saving speeches, just mysteries, the kind with missing clues, strange suspects, and endings that didn't come easy. She'd walk into bookstores or comic shops and pass right by the colorful heroes, past the capes, past the explosions, looking for something quieter, something that felt real. Stories where people weren't perfect, where problems didn't get solved with a punch, where the hero sometimes didn't even want to be the hero. And then one day she found it. A comic that didn't look heroic at all. Muted colors, serious tone. A woman on the cover who looked more tired than triumphant. It felt less like an adventure and more like a case file. And that was the moment superhero stories changed, because some heroes don't save the world, some just survive it. Anyway, let's talk about the private investigator with super strength and trust issues. Jessica Jones first appeared in Alias #1 in 2001, created by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaidos. And unlike most Marvel characters, she wasn't introduced as a symbol or a legend or even someone you were supposed to look up to. She was introduced as a person, specifically a former superhero trying to live a normal life, which in Marvel is basically a horror premise. She used to operate under the name Jewel, bright costume, hopeful energy, the whole deal. But that version of her didn't last because her defining story isn't about heroism. It's about trauma. Specifically what happened when she fell under the control of Kilgrave, also known as the Purple Man, a villain with mind control abilities, meaning Jessica lost control of her own actions for an extended period of time, which is one of the darkest arcs in mainstream superhero comics. And from that point on, her story becomes less about saving people and more about reclaiming agency, which is a very different kind of fight. Jessica has super strength, enhanced durability, and limited flight, but she doesn't use those powers like a traditional hero. She becomes a private investigator, running alias investigations, taking cases that usually involve missing people, secrets, or situations that don't end cleanly, because Jessica Jones stories are basically superhero noir. Less save the city, more solve a case while emotionally spiraling. Her tone is cynical, dry, sarcastic, and often self-destructive, which is exactly why she works, because she feels real, not aspirational, not mythic, just real. Her main comic runs include Alias from 2001 to 2004, which defines her entire tone and character, The Pulse, which integrates her into the wider Marvel universe, and later Jessica Jones runs starting in 2016 that continue her story in a more modern context. And throughout all of this, one of the most important parts of her life becomes her relationship with Luke Cage, which turns into one of Marvel's most grounded and believable relationships. Not perfect, not dramatic in a superhero way, just complicated and human. Kilgrave remains her most important villain, not because he's physically powerful, but because of what he represents. Control, violation of agency, psychological damage. And Jessica Jones' stories constantly come back to those ideas. Trauma, recovery, identity, trust, survival. Her victories are rarely about beating someone in a fight. They're about making a choice. And that makes them hit harder than most superhero endings. In the MCU, Jessica represents a lane Marvel hasn't fully leaned into yet, grounded psychological storytelling, and if she returns, she likely won't be leading a team or giving speeches. She'll be reacting, questioning, resisting, which actually makes her incredibly valuable in larger crossover events, especially something like Secret Wars, where everything is chaos and larger than life, because you need someone who reacts like a real person. And that's Jessica. Someone who doesn't want to be there but shows up anyway. Jessica Jones matters because she redefines what strength looks like in a superhero story. It's not about winning fights. It's about surviving what you went through and still choosing to move forward, which is honestly way harder. But Jessica isn't the only person in New York who believes justice should be absolute. Next time we're covering someone who thinks crime has exactly one solution, has zero patience for moral gray areas, and owns more weapons than emotional coping mechanisms. See you then.